Is that, okay, good. That gives me another second. Good evening and welcome to the City of Oak Park Heights Park Commission meeting for August 16th, 2021. We're calling it to order at this time. And the first thing that I want to include is to welcome our newest park commissioner, Annie Barris. This is her first meeting, and we're so happy to have her here. She's given us great ideas, even in just talking to her before she was nominated and elected to office. So thank you, Annie, for being here. Now we will go on to approval of the agenda, and that's in front of us. We do have 3 commissioners here, and so we can go ahead. Do I hear an approval of the Parks and Trails?
I'll move to approve it.
All right, and second?
I second.
Thank you. It's been approved. And any other additions to those minutes? They were pretty long and well done. Thank you, Jen, for that. Otherwise, we will move on to the approval of the Parks and Commission's meeting minutes. Is there anything that anybody wanted to add to those minutes? No? So then I'd like to hear an approval of the Parks and Trails Commission minutes.
Move to approve the commission minutes from July 19th.
And I'll second that, and we're going to move on from there. Thank you. Department and Commission liaison reports. We start with our arborist, Lisa.
Yes, just a quick update. Last month's update was a little longer for me. I've been continuing to work on the Emerald Ash Borer plan, and I've been working on updating the ash tree inventory here for the city as well. So
What
that's all
kind
I have.
of numbers are we looking at with the ash borer?
As far as the ash borer goes, I've got 6 private trees marked, and I'd say I've got my eyes on maybe 8 to 10 boulevard trees right now, but it's going to make its way around. So I would encourage anybody that has an ash tree to get it treated. You can contact a licensed tree service. Here at City Hall, we have a list of different companies, and they can take care of doing it's basically a trunk injection. It's like an IV for a tree with a preventative pesticide, which needs to be done every 2 to 3 years, or they go around it with like a air-powered, it's like a gun with a needle on it, I guess would be the easiest way to explain it. And go around the tree, drill some little holes in the tree, put some plugs in, and then they inject the pesticide.
And is it fairly successful?
Yes.
It really will keep our ash alive.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Is that information then, is that in every newsletter that we send out pretty much?
Yeah, it will be coming up here probably for the next one. Otherwise, I've updated the brochure rack here in the rotunda. Jen updated the various articles we had on the city website. And yeah, if anybody has a question, feel free to call in.
And any trees that are boulevard trees and therefore the city's responsibility, all we have to do is call you?
Yes.
All
And
right.
if you have a question on a private tree too, that's fine, and I'll stop out and look at it. So.
You had interesting information when I was reading the notes here about, but do not cut them down at this time.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Would you repeat that?
So right now is still the flight season for the emerald ash borer, meaning it's active, flying around. And if you trim or cut down an ash tree, the exposed bark, exposed cuts can attract the emerald ash borer to that tree. So it's best to have those trees removed between September 30th is the tentative date from the Department of Ag and the DNR. But if we just say October 1st to April, you're pretty safe in that period of time.
Okay, that's good to know, because that was part I had not heard before. And
Yeah.
so-
And I should have mentioned too, for the preventative treatments for the emerald ash borer on the tree, the ash trees, not every tree is a candidate to be injected. If it's missing, say, less than 50%, or it's in a poorly planted spot, has trunk wounds, just, there's different factors that go into it on whether or not you would inject it, because the costs and benefits might be a toss-up.
Gotcha.
So, and companies that do it would be able to come out and say if it meets size and whatnot, and recommend to you if they would treat it or not treat it. So,
Okay, thank you.
yeah.
Can the injection occur any season, anytime?
No, it's gotta be when it's fully leafed out, so say May till early September before leaves start changing color. So, good question.
Thank you.
Are there any other disease of other trees that we're supposed to be watching for as well? Perhaps not as imminent as the emerald ash or,
As always, keep a lookout for Dutch elm and oak wilt.
okay,
If you wound an oak tree right now, just seal up the cuts.
good enough. Any other questions? Team? All right, thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
We move on to Public Works Director, Andy.
Sure. Well, I've got nothing substantial from an operations standpoint to report, but I do want to share this. An Eagle Scout group finished a project in the park this weekend. They did a fantastic job. What it is, it's a enclosure for portable toilets, and it kind of helps reduce the desire to vandalize, perhaps. I don't know, but there's one of these at Brecky, and go take a look. It really turned out nice. So they did a really good job. I'm gonna toss that down. Everyone take a look. And that's really all I have to report. Otherwise, it's business as usual.
Wonderful.
Where, this is at Breck?
Oak Park Crossing Park.
Yeah.
There's also one at Brecky, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Different group of guys or kids, but same idea, same concept, so.
And I heard about it right away
Yeah,
when the kids were still down there working. You
Sure.
know, that people were coming back out of the park, and I live so close there.
yeah, you do.
Then
right,
people
right
start
there.
reporting.
Yeah.
Do we send them a thank you note from the Parks Commission or anything like that? I mean,
The city council actually does do a
Okay.
resolution.
Great.
Oh, wonderful. That's good to know. And where can we put this to even just show on the cameras here? Is that going to do it?
Oh, it's pretty small for the camera.
Pretty small for the camera.
Yeah.
All right, we'll just leave it be.
can
Thank you,
see it in
Andy. I
person,
think
right?
that's a great thing, because they are just a temptation evidently for a certain category of kids looking for something to do.
Yeah.
Is to tip one of those, and that's just nasty. They're expensive.
They are. Yeah.
They're very expensive. I don't think people realize how much. I didn't until I came onto this commission, how much we spend on keeping those in the parks. And they're all for the necessity to have people who are walking and playing and riding and whatever else in our parks. They need facilities. So, thank you, Andy. Any other questions, my people? And so we go on to Carly, is our city council liaison.
I think the only update I have is at our last council meeting, we did approve the Bridge the Valley bike rally that happened last Sunday with the Rotary, that went through part of Oak Park Heights with all of their different routes.
Yeah,
I think that's it.
and that was a cool event. It was in the local paper too. So it's always nice to get publicity of that nature, especially. Any other questions or thoughts on that? Okay, we're going to move on. We have no visitors, and understandably so, with COVID still in effect. So we're going to move on. No public hearing, and that's always listed as a possibility. And so we move to old business. And Cobra Park, when we did our walk around, we noted two different things at Cobra that we asked Andy and Lisa to look into. And so we're gonna go back to you over there. And Andy, do you want to talk about the toddler swing?
I sure do, yeah.
All right.
So that's why I handed this little photo of a map out, just to give you a better visual of what we're talking about here. Lisa did a great job. She compiled all these quotes, got the data necessary for us to be able to propose this, if you will. And what we're proposing is to simply add, put an addition onto the existing play area, about a 24 by 24 foot square space. And that would be in the red there, and that would help minimize the need to remove, 3 or 4 trees, Lisa, and move a bench?
Yeah, it'd probably be, I'm gonna say 1 to 2 trees and then that existing swing bench.
Okay, and so basically it's more cost effective to do it this way, and so that's what we're gonna propose. On page 8 of your packet, that would be this little cost breakdown sheet. Lisa put this together. You'll notice that Flagship Recreation, which is a local company out of Lake Elmo, they did provide the lowest quote for the equipment. And then we combined the equipment cost with the rest of the fixed costs, if you will. That would be the playground border and the mulch, which we have to have, for a total project cost of approximately $4,200. And so this is what we're going to recommend, is that you folks, if you desire to move forward with this, that you would choose that particular piece of equipment, and that we do add this play area to the existing play area. This whole thing will be paid for with that Molter fund that we talked about during our park walkthrough discussion. There is, I believe, $97,000 left in that fund. And so if you want to discuss. Otherwise, if you're happy with this plan, we would ask that you provide a formal approval, if you will, or recommendation via motion, and then we'll move this forward to the council.
All right. Any questions?
Does that ADA playground mulch, does that match up with what's currently at that same site?
It does.
It will, yes. The only thing would be to get the mulch. I had mentioned this to Andy. Since it's only like a half truckload, we would have to combine it with like a neighboring city also purchasing, which might be difficult now since it's kind of nearing fall. Versus if we waited till next year, we could get a complete truckload and mulch another one of our playgrounds. So that would be something too, whether or not we install it this year.
Well, that's a good point. Does anybody have any thoughts on that issue?
And it's a ways out too, I think, for them to get it sent to us, just with shipping and production.
Right.
Yeah, it's probably a next year build. Logistics aside, we probably won't even get the equipment until it's too late to put it in.
That seems to be
honest.
so widespread
Yeah.
everywhere
Yep.
on every kind of materials, whatever they are,
Yep.
even to build homes and whatever. Much less what we see even in our grocery stores. It's still out of our hands, any of us here. And that makes sense then, because I'm surprised at how much this costs, because it's for a little one, and I just didn't have any idea, although I should, because I've been on this long enough to know how much even putting an adult swing, which is just this piece underneath the chain, how much that costs. You have to do all the safety figures and bring all of that into it. You can't just like we might throw it down in one of our own backyards.
Right.
To do it. So thank you again for always being so careful with that safety issue and following all of the codes that are necessary when we're doing anything in these parks.
So if we put this off until next spring, say, the costs remain the same? I mean.
No,
it's just-
I'm not saying put it off. I'm saying, if you folks made the recommendation, we would still purchase the equipment, but we probably won't get it, until it's too late to
Yeah.
install it. And so we would install the equipment, next spring. It'd probably just sit in our public works garage
Okay.
through the winter.
Right. And it might not even then go out for payment until,
We don't pay for things until we get them. But I would imagine that, this is just a guess. I really don't know. Maybe we'll get it in 2 weeks, but I'm thinking that it's probably gonna be backlogged.
Yeah.
It,
Everywhere else, I think they had told me like 6 to 8 weeks.
all right.
But if you guys were to decide to order it next year, likely the cost will go up.
So we're talking possibly end of September, mid-October. And by then, you're right, we're starting to look at winter season.
Yeah, and if it's mid-October and it's as nice as it was last year, shoot, we'll go for it. We'll try
Sure.
to get it installed, but
Sure. Fair enough?
If you were going to, if this all occurred and you were going to try to put it in October, what would the solution for the mulch be then? Would you still wait?
We
No.
have to have the
Adjust.
mulch in before we can
You do.
technically have the swings up. Like, we can have the structure up, but we can't have the seats and all that,
Gotcha.
so.
Right. Any other questions or thoughts on this, comments?
So we have to make it official.
We have to, I need a motion to go ahead and authorize our, the Public Works Director to order.
well, we
Swing set
would
from-
just bring this to the council as a recommendation
Right.
from the park commission. And then ultimately, they'll give us the approval to make the purchase.
Right, and they have another meeting this month,
They
right?
do, yep.
Okay, fair enough. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move that we recommend the purchase of the Toddler swing from Flagship Recreation and the accompanying mulch and border edging and anything else that's needed to secure this.
All right. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 So, motion has been made and it's carried. Go to it, guys.
Okay,
Thank you so
great.
much for all the work you did to make our job that much easier. Know what's going on with it. Appreciate that. All right, the next thing, of course, is the Cobra Park Garden Plaque.
And that is me. So in your packet, you'll see page 1 is just a little bit of background about what the current status of this project is and a general idea of what we could potentially do. Again, this is ideas. I'd love your thoughts. And then the second page is a little bit about the history, which might need to be wordsmithed and probably shortened, just given the cost of plaques.
Right.
But basically, for background, for our new commissioner, earlier this spring, we voted to look at restoring that garden into partly prairie instead of having a full-on garden, which we didn't have the support to maintain, and so there was a lot of noxious weeds. So then part of it is because the history with the garden, with all the houses that were torn down and the plants that were put into this garden, it'd be a good way to keep the history, making it sustainable, and then doing that full transition. And again, that'd probably be next spring where we'd look at doing both projects.
Great idea.
And that goes all the way back to 94 and 95 is when those houses were removed. One of the people who lost their house that they'd been in for like 50 years, they were all, none of them were new houses. They were all just small, lovely little homes, here in the valley. And one of them, though, moved in to my neighborhood. So then I did hear the whole story of how that all came about. And so I think it's nice, just on that alone, to carry forward and make sure that the story doesn't get lost. You did a lovely job on this, by the way. even just letting us know what's going on. And so any other questions, though, about the plaque and how we would probably do it?
So the intention is to have a plaque, if possible, to hook it into a rock like this.
Yes.
And it was a suggestion to use this as a picture with that? Is that?
I don't know if it's feasible, but I've seen some plaques that have pictures, and our city clerk Jennifer also has some other photos we could look at, and the Washington County Historical Society also sent me some others, so that's something we could all look at and look at the design if it's even feasible. Part of the intent with looking at just what could we do is
Sure.
it'd be kind of at child level, so I was looking at ways of how do you make it engaging so that everyone who might read it would understand it and be interested.
I like that.
I love that you thought of that as well. As an early childhood educator, that's one of the first things when reading this that I thought of is how can I engage my child? And when they see this picture that's interesting, they want to know about it. And that almost, tells the parent's going to read it to them, and then, perfect for them to learn about the history and engage them. But like you said also, I don't know how to do a picture on a plaque, so.
Yeah, it would be something to look into and see if that's feasible. I think that our city administrator, Eric Johnson, had some ideas of who we could solicit offers from, and they might also have some ideas.
Be great. All right. So do we need actually a motion on this, don't
Do
we?
you want to take action to direct staff to get some quotes and ideas, options for plaques?
That'd be great.
Is that something we want
Yeah,
to move
that-
forward with? Okay, then
love
that's
that. Yeah.
what we would like.
Okay, so would one of you like to make a motion to get ideas to really move this ahead in a way that we can see it fulfilled even next spring again?
Okay. I will motion for ideas for council to look into for the plaque for Cobra Park.
Second?
Second.
And so motion has been made and carried that you're going to go ahead and take it from here and report back to us next meeting, perhaps?
Yeah.
That'd be great. Thank you so much. Okay, we have no new business. And so we're all the way to informational. Does anyone else have anything to add before we go to informational?
Can I just say something?
Certainly.
I did send out an email to the Parks and Trails Commission earlier this week. I guess it's last week. We're already at the beginning of this week. That the Zephyr Theater had reached out to the city of Oak Park Heights to put on a play down at Valley View Park. And typically, we would love to have that come through our Parks and Trails Commission first to kind of get ideas and maybe partner with them to do like a program. But they came to us with not a lot of time. They came to us and they were like, okay, we want to do this next week. So we didn't have time to include the Parks and Trails Commission, but the city's staff thought it was a valuable idea that they wanted to do. So we go ahead and approve that on a staff level. And they did do that starting last week on Wednesday through Sunday. They had a puppet show, a Shakespeare scene, and then a little thing they called Shakespeare LOL, which was just funny scenes from different stories. And I did ask them to provide me a summary of the event so I could provide it to you. I hadn't received it as of the beginning of this meeting, but I hope to have a summary I can email out to you and report again. We could talk about this at our next meeting. I think it's something, if it was successful, that we would want to talk to them about doing again next year.
Well, there's certainly a lot of laughter and noise coming from the park.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it was very pleasing. And certainly saw enough traffic going by
Yeah.
heading that way too. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that it was very successful. Did anybody else?
I would like to share my own summary.
Sure.
I got to go with my children, and I loved it. I enjoyed it. It was filled. I would say at least like 75 people there.
Oh,
If
wonderful.
not to 100. And children, all ages, adults. It was beautiful how they set it up. There was tons of picnic tables. Trash cans were present, so there was, everybody was respecting the parks. It was a very, very fun event.
Good, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Which day did you go?
I went on a Friday night.
Okay, good.
And I stayed for I should say I stayed for 2 events and half of the third one.
Okay,
They had a nice big sign up at the entrance there,
Yes,
so
they
I'm
did.
sure some people maybe saw it one day and then came in the next.
yeah.
Parking did go all the way down the driveway, so maybe that's something if we were to consider doing this again, talking about.
Okay.
It was just, I'm sure, a long walk for a few.
Yeah, yeah, that was the biggest thing that the city had a concern with, was parking.
Would that be the best of our parks to do something like that? Or is there a better?
So what their idea behind it is that it was set up beautifully on a hill where that was their audience. So the audience, everybody could see no matter where they were sitting. And I think going off of your question, is there another park kind of with an auditorium,
Well, you could put them at Brecky in between the 2 baseball fields where we wanted the steps put in.
Yeah.
And have them sit on the side of the hill there, and they could have the outfield basically at the ball field. That'd be one place.
Or Autumn Hills is a great
Yeah.
park. They've got that nice hill with the
Which
kind of
one?
Autumn Hills.
Autumn Hills,
Yeah, with a
that'd be
nice
good.
little bowl at the bottom.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
I mean, that might be a suggestion for them, if one of those gives us more parking.
Yeah.
And
I don't know
that's
if
the-
it does, though.
Parking would be an issue there.
At
Yeah.
Autumn Hills?
Yeah. It
Yeah,
might-
and that's what I'm thinking of any of the other, at least we do have the long driveway in, the road in.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, and it's wonderful to have that amphitheater kind of setting for it, and not all the other ones would have anything that nice for everyone to be able to see well, even little ones.
Right.
You know.
And they incorporated the woods as well, so I think that's why they chose that area as well.
Mm-hmm.
As far as, I wanted to bring up parking, just if we, like you said, it was very short notice, but with the advancement, maybe we could come up with a solution. next year.
Yes, yes.
Because it is tucked back from the main road. The park is.
Maybe shuttling or something, maybe they could set up shuttles and we could find a spot for visitors to park somewhere. I don't know, because I know not everybody stays for all 3 sections, but maybe next year they don't do that, they just do one thing, and so a lot to talk about, so I hope they do come back to us and we can meet.
Yeah.
And we did tell them to come back early, and they said, well, how can we, next month, is that fine? I said, yeah, that's great. If they want to do that, then we can start talking about it even earlier than we would hope to, so.
And I heard they did a nice job of cleanup too,
Oh, good.
which is, something that shouldn't have to then fall to our staff.
Right.
Where
Yeah.
overwork does it, it is.
Yes.
So I was happy to check into
Yes.
that part too.
Great,
So-
great.
Yeah, it was a neat event. I'm glad they thought of us.
Yeah, really cool.
Any other questions or anything anybody wants to talk about? Otherwise, I'll make my own motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
And we are done. Thank you.
Thank you.